All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start this lesson by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Chakudash. Double honors, as always, to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who taught us all this truth and who also rule and teach well. Shalom to Allah Achim in this truth and sincerity, starting with the 144,000 and the 1/3 of the nation of Israel, which we are fighting to be a part of. This is your brother Chabar Yakal coming back, Lord willing, with another quick and edifying lesson. And this topic is going to be going into that the digital ID. Once again, I've done a couple lessons. I did one with a beautiful brother in my camp. But this just caught my attention. I was looking for a topic to do a lesson, and this is really a hot topic. So why not do another one? All right, so without further ado, I'm going to go into this article and get a couple of scriptures. I don't have any scriptures like picked out, but I have a few that I believe I might get if the Spirit, leads me. But I'm just going to read this, skim through this article. It says, digital ID will tackle illegal working and deter migrants, Starmer insists. Sir Keir Starmer, which who the hell is this guy? I should have looked that up beforehand. Okay, he's the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I should have known that. I mean, I've seen that name before, but I just didn't know who he was. Keir Starmer. All right. For edification's sake, just so you know who that is. Sir Keir Starmer has insisted digital IDs will help stop people working illegally and deter migrants from coming to the UK, United Kingdom. The Prime Minister has announced on Friday that the government would introduce a new ID system by 2029 that would be mandatory for people working in the UK. All right, mandatory. Let me get that word. These words are powerful that they're using because they're basically telling you what they're trying to do. All right, it says required by law, mandate. So there's something called martial law, which martial goes into warlike law, meaning that's why police got military equipment now. Police, the riot squad, they got all type of military. They got tanks, drones. Okay, they're the police is militarized in Babylon the Great, which is America. America is known in the Bible as Babylon the Great, which will be destroyed by fire. With nuclear missiles. So they're gonna make it mandatory. It says by 2029. But things are moving fast. All right, they're saying 2029, but they might be talking about 26. All right, who knows? I mean, no man knows the day or the hour when all hell is finally gonna be unleashed, and Yahweh Shai soon returns after that. But we're here. We're in Jacob's trouble. All right, we're in Jacob's trouble. It just hasn't intensified, but we are in Jacob's trouble. People's doors is getting kicked in, by ICE. People are getting raided. All right. People are taking the alligator Alcatraz. People are washing up, washing up on the beach with shackles. All right. I was just watching a video about that. People, seeing. I mean, it was kind of an old story, but still, these things are happening. All right. Ministers have said the ID will only be required as proof of the right to work in the UK as part of a bid to cut illegal immigration, but there is scope for its use to be widened in the future to access public services. See, they're really telling you, it's leading to really that CHIP, that RFID, micro CHIP, that device the size of a grain of rice, that they're going to try to put in your right hand or in your forehead, pursuant to the prophecy in Revelation, Revelation 13 and 16. They're going to widen its use. Look at what they're saying. Listen carefully, all right? There is... let me break this down, all right? And this is something that brothers have brought out in the past. The word but, hold up, the word but means you're negating what you just said. So they're saying, they're using this, as a guise, all right? They're using it, as a covering, to distract you from what they're really doing. All right. It says ministers have said the ID will only be required as proof of the work in the UK. They're trying to put you at ease, like don't get any ideas. This is only just so you can work. It's not a tracking device. You remember that company, way back in like 2015, 2016. I think it was called 3 Square Market. It was in Boston. I think it was in Boston. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it was like one of the first companies to implement the chip. And the employees were getting it. And they said it's not a tracking device. It's obviously a tracking device. What do you think radio frequency is? You could track that. Not to get too off topic, but they're pretty much trying to put you at ease. Let me get a quick scripture on that. We're not ignorant. I'm going to get that one too. I'm going to finish out the article. I'm going to get this one first. Ecclesiastes 12 and 10. It says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. So it says just that, don't trust this devil, Esau, Edom, which is the so-called self-proclaimed white race. The Edomites, they're not white, they're red. Their biblical nationality is Edom, all right, which is that was Esau, but his name got changed to Edom, which means red, Adawam in the ancient Hebrew, all right. They're the main antagonists to us, all right, to our people, the Israelites, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and history shows that, all right. History has proven that. Look at what happened to the so-called Native Americans. Look at what happened to the so-called, Hispanics on the island of, Hispaniola. With Columbus and his goons. Those animals, how vicious and savage they dealt with the tribes. So fast forward to today, they don't have our best interests at heart, and you Israelite foreigners too. Okay, you got our people who even look like the so-called white man. We got Israelites that are scattered among every single nation and look like those nations. All right. I'm not saying, no replacement theology, BS. I'm just saying, according to biblical prophecy, our people are scattered. And they do, a lot of our people have taken on the appearance of other nations. But the other nations are still going into slavery. All right. The seed of Jacob is going to be saved, though. Even the wicked Israelites, after they, learn it after death by pain. All right. They're going to come back in the kingdom. It says, though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away. So Esau, his rust is being visible right now. You could see it. Look at Trump. That nigga looks rusty. He looks the color of rust, all right? But in all seriousness, though, Trump is showing his horns, all right? That press conference they had with I completely forgot his name and his rank and all that, but that military official, high-ranking military official, I don't know if he was a sergeant. Again, Salaki, there's so much going on, I forgot what that guy's name is and his rank. But if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. That press conference, Elder Pastor Tahar did a video on it where he said, you guys in the military, basically he's saying man up. He's saying, we're not allowing beards anymore. We're not allowing overweight people. Why do you think that is? They're about to make a move. So I'm going to end off with this. Let me see if there's any more on this. I'm going to read a little bit more. It says more than 2 million people have signed a petition opposing the plans and calling them a step toward mass surveillance and digital control. See? And the fact that a lot of people, it says more than 2 million, the fact that masses of people are seeing through it, they're seeing through the BS because they know a lot of people are waking up to the fact that they've been lied to their whole life. So now they're questioning everything, thanks to TikTok, thanks to, first and foremost, the apostles, the elders of Great Millstone, going back to 2007 till now. I'm going to say that first and foremost, because who was the first ones to blow the trumpet? You got whistleblowers now, but who was the one to blow the trumpet? The apostles, the elders of Great Millstone. They started it, they're elders, of course. But on YouTube or social media, the apostles, the elders of Great Millstone started it. They're the first ones to bring out all the information, tell you about the NWO, tell you about the elites. They brought it out, and they brought out the scriptures to back it up. No one else ever did that. So I'm giving them credit. All you other people, you all came late. Okay? But the point I was making, 2 million people oppose it. Why do you think they're going to come down with great wrath? All right? Why do you think, like I said, the press conference, Revelation 12:12, they're about to come down with great wrath because they know they have a short time. They're not going to ask people nicely. They're going to start kicking in doors like they're already doing. It's just going to intensify and get worse. Blood is going to be in the streets. It says, Labor backbencher Bill Ribeiro Addy has said the backlash shows people do not understand the purpose of the move and cast doubt how it would stop people from working in the shadow economy. But Sir Keir said is absolutely convinced. One of the reasons migrants travel through France to reach the UK is that it is easier to work illegally here than any other country. And that's all set up, order out of chaos, all right? Just like Biden, when he was in office a couple years ago, he let all those immigrants in. It's all by design, all right? The same thing over there. It's it's obvious. We're not ignorant. It says we must be really clear. You must have ID, mandatory digital ID, in order to work, because we have to stop illegal working. Esau is the ultimate hypocrite. Talking about acting like they're the hero after all the bloodshed and wickedness that they've done, especially over there in the UK. But I'm not going to get into that. I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy. It says, let me see if there's any more. I'm going to just skim read through this. Blah, blah, blah. This is problem, reaction, solution, man. Well, I'm going to link this in the description so, you could read it yourself. But that's pretty much the point. I'm going to end off with this. I don't want to drag this lesson out. 2 Thessalonians 2:11. Hold up. It might be 1 Thessalonians 2:11. Hold up. I'm going to just look it up. Second Corinthians 2:11. It says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us. The word Satan means adversary. Who is adverse to us? Who is adverse to life itself? Why is the planet Earth dying? What nation of people are responsible for this? The Edomites. That's Satan. All right. It's not talking about the spiritual demon Satan. It's talking about a man on earth. It says at least Satan. Well, it's talking about both. Esau, Edom, he runs under the power of Satan. Okay, it says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Which, when you go into that word devices, it means evil purpose, evil thought, or like it says in the NLT, evil schemes. So, Lord, this lesson was edifying. Once again, getting our praise to Yahweh, Bashem Yahshua, Bashem